Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's Laces Out, the NFL podcast, and really the only NFL podcast you need. And ladies and gentlemen, when I promise guests, I get you the finest guests, the top of the table, the cream of the crop. That's right, two champions duking it out, and I bring them to you to talk fantasy football, American football, and generally all that's going on from last week and this coming week. If you are checking us out on YouTube, just give that subscribe button a little click. If you've already done that, what you could do is tell somebody else to do the same. So here we go. This is CookieCast, NFL podcast, Laces Out. Well, isn't this one interesting? Here we go. Obviously, everybody's used to, and some might say sick of, not my words, seeing mine and Mr. Williams' faces. But, you know, if the man says he's going to get guests, the man delivers. I mean, you know, we ignore all those other podcasts where I said I was going to get guests and I didn't. We don't talk about those. This is the one that's important. This is the one I'll be judged on. At the end of days, this is the podcast they'll judge me on. So, I'll go in joining order. Obviously, I'm here, the host of CookieCast NFL podcast Laces Out. We've got our glamorous, and some would say gorgeous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams, the big hand in the sky. Over on my, I'm going to say right, but weirdly, it's actually my left. The friendliest giant in town, the smartest giant in town, the JFG, Mr. James Forrester Gray. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. You are here to serve the purpose of being one of our fantasy league's potential champions. Let's go with that.
There's a way to go yet. Like
speaking of ways to go, over in the another corner, for me it's the right bottom corner. I imagine on the screen it's probably the left bottom corner. Another potential fantasy football legend. How many times is it now, Matthew? Is it a 2-time legend already? 2-time legend. Toots times. Matthew, 2 teams Herlihy. Paul's gone Belichick on us. Matthew, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, my friend.
Good.
How are you guys?
I believe we are well. Paul's doing his best Belichick. You need to cut the sleeves off. You need to get the sleeves cut off.
Yeah, it would need to be a sleeveless hoodie.
A sleeveless hoodie. I mean, the words are just.
So it needs to be a sleeveless hoodie, and I need to just have nothing but contempt for my fellow man.
And absolutely nothing to say on this podcast.
Especially running backs.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we had games. We had a week. The games have gone, and we have the week to look forward to. I have something hilariously fantasy related to discuss when we get to the fantasy section. Not as much fantasy goodness as you two corner gentlemen, but we'll get there eventually. Does anybody have any standout moments from week whatever week it was? I've lost a bit.
14.
14 was that?
Yeah, basically. Standout moment, maybe not. Well, no, it probably is, given what happened. But so last game of the week was obviously probably the best if anything, it was probably arguably one of the best games of the season, if not the best game of the season.
It's being touted as.
It was the Browns versus the Ravens. And it literally went down to the wire. The Ravens kicked the winning field goal with 2 seconds left on the game clock.
Justin Tucker doing what Justin Tucker does.
Exactly. The notable moment, however, was the fact that Lamar Jackson left the game, and people said that he left with cramps.
He went for a Williams, didn't he? Went for a little Williams.
They didn't define what type of cramps, just that he had cramps. And I saw that someone put on Twitter that he showed a clip of him running into the locker room, and it was accompanied with the statement, "I've seen a lot of people run with cramps. I've seen that run before. I've never known the run of a man who's got cramps."
It's better than doing a Lineker, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say he could have gone worse. He could have Linekered it. Yeah. So Lamar Jackson had to be pulled from the game because he had to go for a Todd.
That was for the viewers. That was something that I saw on Twitter this evening. For the listeners, it is Lamar Jackson saying that he absolutely did not need to go for a poo. I think whether it's true or not at this point in time, I think it will go down in history as Lamar Jackson needed to go and do a little toozy.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no shame in needing a throw.
The one I'd seen was where they were like Lamar Jackson going to the locker room, and it was the clip from Dumb and Dumber where he's running around trying to find a toilet. Brilliant.
You've got to own these things eventually, haven't you? It's like, you know what? I needed a poo. It happens to everyone.
Yeah. No, we all know the nervous poo.
You gotta go.
I mean,
Did somebody do it recently in football where a Tottenham player had to
Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer recently. He had to go off because he had to...
Eric diarrhea.
Brilliant. So, Mr.
This
Williams,
guy's probably getting hit in the midriff quite a lot by big, heavy lads. You know.
It's like, oh, that burrito's not sitting right.
That's pushed it down a few inches.
I've laced these trousers up wrong. That's for sure. Mr. Williams, as the rudder of said podcast, are you able to steer us onto our first segment of the week?
I certainly can try. I might like all the toilet talk. It's
well, it is your field of expertise.
I mean, it is one of my passions in life. What can I say? We all enjoy a good Todd every now and again, don't we?
Who doesn't?
I mean, we can discuss the last week's games in full if you want, and go through the predictions if you will.
I have a horrible feeling that I already know who's won last week's because
Really?
I remember a conversation about particular games, and I remember somebody saying that they'd pick different to everyone else. And I seem to remember the score from that game was that person's pick had come in. But I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to get ahead of the game, some might say. So,
Well,
let's talk about last week's games.
so last week's games, as is the way from here on out for the last 3 weeks. All 16 games we played out of 32 teams, so 16 games to pick from. Now, unfortunately, Leanne was slow with her picks this week, and she missed the Thursday night deadline, so she actually missed out on a point and she didn't get her pick in time for the Patriots-Rams game. So technically, she was already one behind before everything kicked off. As both myself and myself had picked the Rams to get the win. So, 16 games in total, 15 games if you're Leanne. In joint
Who would
place,
she have gone for?
I think she did actually say that she would have picked the Patriots. So,
Right, okay. Sorry.
so in hindsight, it wouldn't have made that much difference anyway. In joint second place, or joint last place, if you want to look at that one. With 10 out of 16 picks correct, it is the aforementioned Leanne the Stats Mistress, and build the suspense, obviously. Must have been something in the water at that house, because Andrew Cook, also with 10 out of 16 picks correct.
I knew it.
So winning the week with 11 out of 16 picks correct, it was this guy. In the end, the game that kind of sealed it for me was my faith in the Washington football team.
That was the game. That's the game I was talking about. I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember a conversation about Paul picking Washington to win. And they did indeed. And I think that was what will have sealed it. So, there we go. What does that do?
I've said this earlier this season on the podcast, and I think I might have said it last season. There's something about the 49ers that I just don't see it.
I mean, it's the team where ACLs go to die. So,
well, there is that. I mean, they are absolutely strapped for players at the minute, so that did play into it slightly, I suppose. But yeah, I think they're a bit of a false position for me. Well, not so much this season, because obviously they're not anywhere. But
I don't know. If they stay healthy, I'm terrified of the Niners.
What does that do to the season-long score?
Well, do you remember how so with Leanne's win the week before, it put her into first place?
I do.
And do you remember how you were? Do you remember how you were in first place before that, Andrew?
I do.
So in last place,
It's me, innit?
is the collective guest.
Okay.
With 2.5 points. Although to be fair to the guest, they haven't made a pick for 4 weeks.
It's fine, because that is going to be rectified this week.
Well, it certainly is, Andrew.
Twofold. We'll do individual points for the guest this week.
Well, there
we take the best. Does the best score between us go through to the overall totals?
Yeah. We'll try and aggregate the best we can. So the guest collectively on 2.5 points for the season. Then like I was saying, do you remember how a couple of weeks ago you were in first place with your 3.5 points?
Yeah, I remember.
You've somehow slipped down into third place in the space of 2 weeks.
This is disgusting.
With 3.5 points. I have jumped up into second place with my 4 points, and Leanne is still out in front with a whopping 4.5 points. Everything left to play for, Andrew.
There is indeed. So, dealer's choice. Do we want to go on and do a little bit of the fantasy talk? Get our special guests involved. But in fact, I think I've already made my mind up. Let's talk some fantasy football. So, myself and Mr. Williams are currently in the group of people who are playing for the Ruxin, for the toilet bowl, for the wooden spoon, any of those other things. We're in the lower bracket. So yeah, that feels real good. Other people are, some might say, 2-time champions looking for a third, and some might say, is this your second dance in the playoffs?
Champion last year. Looking for back-to-backs.
Andrew, why did you have to mention it?
We are amongst greatness right now. Legends. We are humbled to have you gentlemen here. Let's talk about the fantasy. So I have something that I want to share about my fantasy game. I know it doesn't matter, but I was ever so slightly amused by something that had happened over the weekend. But we can leave that for now. Mr. Williams, did you have a win at the weekend?
Technically, no one had a win or a loss at the weekend.
Technically.
But in a more slightly accurate term, yeah, I'm behind. So I'm staring down the barrel of being in the Super Bowl last season and the shithouse bowl this season.
First to worst. First to worst.
No, because I wasn't first, was I?
Moving on swiftly, I would like to talk about the fact that when there was one game left to play, I uttered these words: I need the Browns to get minus points. I need the Browns defense to end on minus points. I also need Jarvis Landry to basically walk out on the field, trip over and injure himself and go straight back off to win for the week. What actually happened was that the Browns defense got 2 points and Jarvis Landry got 5 points, giving me a partial win so far this week. And for some of you, you will know what it means to me to say that my opponent this week, last week, is the Sin Bins only member, Mr. Tim Lacey. Well done to you, sir. Obviously, I can't gloat because it means I'm going to get an absolute shit kicking. Bearing in mind that now it does that thing with your percentage of possible win, and I think I've got a 14% chance of a win. So
yeah, I noticed that. That looks like it's another one of their new features this season.
yes,
I'm pretty sure it didn't have that last.
It didn't have that last year.
Mine saying you've got a 47% chance of winning.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So ESPN may have revamped its opinions on you.
I mean, it's
I've got the same as well.
It's still not over, not even halfway for ladies, is it? I'm going to get absolutely trounced.
159 to 163 is reckoning against you. 4 points. Doesn't take much. 1 touchdown.
Maybe I should pick up a different defense. Maybe that'll change it. I wonder if the Browns defense is available. James, talk to me about your game of the last week. Did you have let's call it a win? Did you have one?
So, narrowly ahead. I was rather pleased about the injuries to to McCaffrey, which probably makes me a bad person, wishing ill on other people. But there ain't that much in it. Anything could happen. Like a couple of one big game from one player, and that swings completely back the other way. But I've got to say, loving J.K. Dobbins. He might, if someone's going to be my star of the playoffs, it's going to be him.
Matthew, how's it shaping up for you?
No, I didn't win this week, unfortunately. It was tight going into today's game with J.K. Dobbins, but what did he get? 13 or 14 or something?
13, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a 32% chance of winning, apparently. But apparently McCaffrey could well be out this week as well. So not looking good.
At this point, surely there's no point in them risking it, because they're not going to make the playoffs. They might as well just give him the rest of the season off and just have him just go absolutely mental in the off season to just get ready to just tear the league to pieces next season. It's that sort of thing where if you could put the bet on early doors, I'd be very tempted. To put a bet on him to get close to it, if not exceed 2,000 yards next season.
He needs to think about my Super Bowl chances, though, doesn't he? He needs to have a word with himself. And
with the greatest of respect, Matthew, I think in his
it's just
own
mad,
way,
isn't it?
he could possibly use the phrase, he couldn't give any less of a fuck about your Super Bowl stuff.
I'm going to have a word. I'm going to have a word with my man Teddy Bridgewater and get him to get on the field.
Teddy, just have a word with him.
You should definitely slip in his DMs. I'm sure that won't be taken badly at all.
Can you imagine how many fantasy players are saying, "Get on the field"?
Jesus. People literally do though. It's awful.
Well, on that regard, did you see that Josh Jacobs caused a bit of a storm? Apparently on Instagram.
I benched him elsewhere.
Yeah, so I have him in my other league, and he caused a bit of a storm because it must have been on the way to the game, he put something on Instagram about the fact that he's not playing today, and then he was basically sorry for all those fantasy owners out there. Yeah, just go up.
It was just troll, wasn't it?
So he was just having a bit of banter. So the annoying thing for me was that on my bench I didn't have anything else, so I scrambled to pick up anyone that were free, might get some points. So I ended up picking up Brandon Ayuk, and then obviously when it was apparent that Jacobs was going to play after all, I switched him out and switched Ayuk out and put Jacobs back in. Should have left it as it was, as Ayuk definitely was a more consistent player. So
right game.
Full Ayuk.
Normally, I'd be asking what people's strategies and things were for the upcoming games, but that's probably not fair in this scenario.
I'm hoping to choose players that will score lots of points and bench the players that will score less points than them.
Why would you do that? That's not how the game's played. No, James,
it's a novel strategy, I know, but
I understand that it gets a bit confusing when you get up to those high places, the top of the table and stuff. But what you do is you get all the good players and you get them on the bench, and you get all the ones that say they're going to score, anything below 5. Those are the ones you really want to get in your lineup. Make sure you get.
The tie-break is the bench score, isn't it? So
that's the thing. Make sure you get a defense that is guaranteed to get minus. Anybody, you want the ones that consistently fumble the ball because they get really good points. There was the point in time where I checked and I was like, Derrick Henry. I know that he's normally a good player, but he's on -1. So. Yeah.
Also, it's like golf, right?
Yeah. Golf. It's basically just move the names around until you can get you want below 50, and that's a really good score. At least that's the way I've been doing it for 6 seasons.
Gio Bernard straight in the lineup on his -1 this week.
Yeah. Now then, we've got a choice to make. At this point in time, I'm wondering whether we pull the ripcord early and then try and smash through the rest of it, or do we try and get some of last week's stats out? I'll tell you what. So, I'll give you the setup. Then we'll break for lunch and we'll come back fresh. So here it is. Each week, the stats mistress collates stats given to her in a golden envelope by Nate Davis of USA Today. Nate is a very generous statistician and gives lots of stats. Now, we here at the Laces Out podcast, we don't want to be spending all night talking about stats. So the stats mistress puts them into the Statometer 2000, presses all the buttons, and they spit out the core, the gold, the money stats. This week, gentlemen, there are 10 stats. Now, I'm not a greedy man, and some would say I'm a generous host. So this week, I have taken one of those 10 stats, and I sent the rest off into the ether, and though the rest of them should have landed in your inboxes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read one stat, then we're going to break for lunch and come back, and I believe if we're talking MVPs, it might be Mr. Williams up to go first. So what I've got here is week 14 NFL stats. Credit to Nate Davis of USA Today, but I think we can all agree, bigger credit to the stats mistress. The first stat is this. Kansas Chief quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who entered Sunday with 2 interceptions on the season against 31 touchdown passes, served up 3 to the Finns. It was only the second time Mahomes had suffered a trio of interceptions in one NFL game, and his first multiple pick outing since the Chiefs toppled the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Tell you, man, those Dolphins. You gotta watch those Dolphins.
Dark horses.
Very much. Dark Dolphins, maybe. That might be something.
Dark water horses. Selkies, perhaps.
Seahorses.
Fans of Celtic mythology.
So, for you at home, it's going to be quick and painless. And for us here, there'll be a little bit of faff. So, as they say in the horror movies, we'll be right back. There,
Do you like stats, do you?
I couldn't get the audio to restart. I was about to be like, there we go, that was painless, and then I realised that it wasn't recording, so I was like, it wasn't that painless, was it? It wasn't painless for me.
Oh, Andrew.
Ask your question again, Paul, go on.
So you like stats, do you?
I love stats.
Well, let's carry on with some more stats then, shall we? So, I've got a question for you. Back in the MVP race? Titans running back Derrick Henry, who was 215 rushing yards on Sunday in Jacksonville, represented the second highest output of his career. He also became the first player in league history to own 4 games with both 200 rushing yards and a pair of touchdowns on the ground. Henry's league-leading rushing total is now 1,532 yards, meaning he's still got a viable shot of reaching 2,000 for the season. So it's what? 3 games left.
156 or 159, someone was saying today.
Yes, he's 468 shy. Who's quick at maths? It's 160 something in it, I think.
156.
Yeah. So basically, if he rushes 160 yards in each of his last 4 games, he'll break it. Last 3 games. And I get the feeling that once the Titans are in the playoffs, I imagine it'll just be a case of getting the ball as many times as he needs to. So, but yeah, if he's within 200 yards by the last game, they'll make sure he gets it, basically, won't they? So
yeah.
Anyway, continuing on. The Steelers have at least 1 sack in 70 consecutive games, a new NFL record. They obviously weren't listening to last week's podcast when we said if they had any banter about them at all, they'd leave it on 69. But no, they couldn't. They just couldn't do it, could they? Little bastards. All previous teams with sack streaks of at least 60 games reached the Super Bowl at some point in their run of battering opposing quarterbacks. Yet Pittsburgh is also suddenly on a 2-game skid, losing Sunday night to Buffalo and surrendering the top seed in the AFC playoff race to Kansas City.
Yep.
Finally, on my section of the stats, the Saints' surprise loss to the Eagles sets up a compelling Week 15 meeting with the Chiefs in the Superdome. New Orleans and Kansas City are both trying to claim first-round playoff byes, and the Saints may also be trying to reintegrate quarterback Drew Brees next Sunday after falling behind Green Bay atop the NFC table.
Who has got... Well, I hope it isn't Matthew that's got stats about the Seahawks, because he's just ejected himself.
It's about Jamal Adams, that would be me.
Well, why don't you... While Matthew sorts himself out, why don't you give us some stats about Seahawks Jamal Adams?
Well, I will. So, despite being purely a safety, he got some revenge against his old team, so love a bit of a revenge game narrative. So, former Jet, Jamal Adams took down Sam Darnold, which, in fairness, might not be that much of an achievement in and of itself, but he does now have 8.5 sacks for the season, which is a record for a defensive back. So he's now overtaken the legendary Adrian Wilson. So get on, lad, Jamal Adams.
Nice.
Yeah, poor Sam. He's just getting battered, isn't he? And they're gonna pick a new QB rather than anyone for an offensive line, and probably find the same problems. But anyway, so next up, Texans QB Deshaun Watson. He's had a bit of a rough year, but some ups and downs. The lack of Bill O'Brien seems to be helping. Ish. Protection's been a bit ropey over the year. But Sunday's visit to Chicago marked the first time he's ever been sacked 6 times in one NFL game, which is a bit rough. So that O-line needs some work, because they've honestly, if they get that O-line right, they've got one of the best QBs in the league. And finally, James Robinson, little Jimmy Robs, who I traded away for the mighty Michael Thomas in week 1. Yeah. He's now on 1,361 yards, which is now a record for an undrafted rookie since the common draft era, which started in '67. And yeah, so everything else is dreadful for Jacksonville, but they might just have found a franchise quarterback for free. So yeah, get on J-Rob.
Matthew,
that is all the stats I have
you got any stats for us, maybe about Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson by any chance?
Yes, and potential MVP, as some might say.
Do it.
Yeah. Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson bombed the Jets for 4 touchdown passes, giving him 36 on the season, a single season record for Seattle. Wilson broke his own record of 35 and now owns the top 4 totals in team history. Go Russ. After winning a record 11 consecutive divisional titles with quarterback Tom Brady under centre, the Patriots are on the verge of missing the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Oh dear. When an injury limited TB12 to 1 game. Meanwhile, Brady's Buccaneers are 8-5, poised to reach the playoffs for the first time since 2007. Nice to see Cowboys quarterback Andy Dalton, who has more touchdown passes, 204, than anyone in Bengals history. Notched 2 more on Sunday. Well done.
I was saying to the stats mistress on Sunday that that Cowboys Bengals game was a bit of a statement from old Andy there. They're just slamming left, right, and centre.
Revenge games.
Ah, yeah, love them. I believe
Ginger Pry for that one.
Yeah, why not? I believe that right there is all the stats. We've got rid of the injury report because basically the way we're working this season is: do you have a player on your team? Chances are they're injured. Are they a good player? They are definitely injured then. If you need proof, just check out my fantasy football team. So, that right there is last week, and we can say goodbye to last week. Bye-bye last week. But all that means is that we can look forward to this week. And the way we do that is by sending what we believe is going to be this week's games winning teams to that man over there in the corner, and he puts them into his golden book. And then I inevitably just get worse every week and go from the top slot to the bottom as just literally like that. 3 weeks ago I was at the top. 3 weeks ago. I'm not bitter and or twisted, I'll have you know. So to regain my top slot, I sent Mr. Williams some picks. I believe the Stats Mistress may have also done that. I work on the principle that Mr. Williams is capable of filling his own picks. I know for a fact that the JFG also sent picks because I have viewed those picks. The one out
nice table.
Yeah, I mean it's a thing of beauty. I will be expecting more of a Excel spreadsheet for next season. Just to give you a heads up.
You expect all you want. You'll get what you give it. So.
I want to be seeing pie charts this time next year.
There'll be no pie charts. Pivot tables might come into it,
Oh, I love a pivot table. I can't use them for shit, but I do love them.
The overrated form of table.
True. What this needs is a bar chart. Let's face it. Matthew, did you get some picks over to Mr. Williams before the deadline?
I did. Yes, I did. Yes.
I mean,
I'm actually thinking of changing the Bears pick. I think I might go with the Bears this week. Is that allowed?
Do you know something? I considered that as well. I wrote it down and I made the pick on Pick'ems, but I was like, I don't know how confident I am with that pick.
Why, Matthew? Why would you do it and ruin my perfectly clear book?
I'm going Bears. The Vikings are wobbly at best.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, I can only presume with 5 different picks, there's not going to be a tiebreaker situation.
Well, Matthew, do you want to change your Bears pick?
Yeah.
Do you want to take the Bears?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Andrew, do you also want to change your pick and take the Bears, or do you want to stay with the Vikings?
I value my safety more than I value points, so I'll leave your book the way it is, Mr. Williams. You know where I live, so you know.
I'll get you some Tipp-Ex for Christmas. How about that, pal?
Well,
do you want one of the mouse things that you can get?
Oh, hang on, where's it gone? So...
Oh, it looks awful.
Oh.
Terrible.
Ruined.
However, with that change, we no longer have...
a 5-way tie?
We no longer have a set of picks that are the same.
Okay.
So, before Matt changed his mind, both you and him had picked exactly the same.
Ooh, Matthew.
Oh.
So that does help us because we now no longer need a tiebreaker if it sort of falls that people get the same number of picks right over the course of the 16 games. We just get shared points basically in the same way that we have for other weeks where we haven't been the same. So, from a standout differences perspective, obviously, I'm assuming that no one will be under the illusion that the game of the week isn't the Chiefs at the Saints.
Very excited.
Yeah, boy.
Tasty.
Everyone has backed the Chiefs, except for this guy.
Do we know whether Drew Brees is back for this game?
I think he's scheduled to be available from this week.
What about his ribs?
They're probably extra sauce. He probably puts JR's sauce on it.
Is that going to help, though?
Let's put it this way. Last season, there was the situation where Breeze... Was it his thumb that he injured last season?
Yeah, he had that dodgy... It was like turf toe, but in your thumb.
Yeah, and they had the issue where he was out for... They knew he was going to be out for, say, 6 weeks, and then they had the 6 weeks, and then the bye week came at the end of the 6-week period.
Yeah.
And everyone was just saying, don't bring him back, give him the extra week, and then the bye week, and then bring him back after that. Obviously, they don't have that luxury this time. They don't really have the luxury of giving him more time to rest. They need to get him playing. They need to get him back in the process of taking reps so that he's ready for the playoffs, because they're already in the playoffs. And he needs to have the reps. I know it's Drew Brees at the end of the day, and he's Drew Brees. He still knows how to throw a ball and stuff like that, but obviously he's over 40. His body needs the sort of mechanics to go through the motions, get ready, and stuff like that. So if he's fit, I can't see a situation where they don't at least give him 50% of the reps with Taysom Hill.
Because what I was going to say was, you've got that difficult decision with, do you really want to bring him back for the week that's probably going to be one of the toughest games they're going to face at this point in time?
I disagree, because the Chiefs' defense isn't exactly stellar. The Chiefs, the way the Chiefs beat you is they just outscore you on offense.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they've got an absolute monster like an Aaron Donald who's just going to be hunting him down every snap, trying to bury him into the ground. I mean, the Chiefs do have players that can get to the quarterback, but I can't think of a stellar name off the top of my head that's like a guaranteed person that's going to get to the quarterback. So I think in a kind of weird way, if you're going to bring him back, you might as well bring him up for this week. Give him 50% of the snaps, like I say. Keep using Taysom Hill. I mean, even a fully fit Drew Brees isn't going to play all the snaps, because Taysom Hill's just in there as like a gadget player anyway. So you've now got the ability that Taysom Hill's had the reps where he can now throw more than he was doing before. So you've basically got, I mean, even if you factor Jameson into the situation, you've basically got 3 quarterbacks that can come in at any point and execute the game plan that you've got to a T. So there's just something about it. They always say that like good teams don't lose to the same team twice. So that's the reason I've gone for the Chiefs to beat the Saints to beat the Chiefs, because I think it could be a case of this could arguably be a precursor to the Super Bowl, and I'd be very surprised if the Chiefs won this one and then beat them again in the Super Bowl. So I've gone the other way. So I've gone for the Saints to win this one, but then in my head I'm thinking the Chiefs will win it, if it's the same match.
What would be like a 9-6 like kick fest?
That would be incredible if we get the season's first 3-3 tie going to overtime.
Just 4 and out all game. Just barely getting past midfield and having to kick it and just, turn it over, and then they come back, kick it. It'd just be like the dullest game on paper. Like, oh, wow.
Either that or that Chiefs Rams game from 2-3 seasons ago, where the Rams just beat them by 2 points. That game was incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was the highest scoring game in history, was it?
Yeah, I mean, other than that, we've all gone very similar on the later games. So everyone's all in on the Colts. No shock there. Obviously, the Texans just don't have anyone for Deshaun Watson to throw to that's not named Kiki QT. Even though the Eagles
Brandon might be back.
Fair enough, I suppose. Even though the Eagles just knocked off the Saints, we're all back in the Cardinals. None of us see the Jets snapping that 13 losing streak against the Rams. We're all in on Baker's boys going to New York. Steelers to get themselves back on winning ways against the Bengals. Strange about that. Everyone's already picked the Ravens, makes sense, and the Bucks. Everyone's gone for the Dolphins to beat the Pats, which I thought was a little bit strange, because normally you get at least one person who normally picks the Pats. But
they've been there. The Dolphins have been the Patriots' Achilles heel for a couple of years now, though.
For a few years.
True.
And this version of the Dolphins is dangerous. I
that
really
was
like
crap Dolphins as opposed to good.
Yeah, Dolphins. I really like this incarnation of the Dolphins. I'm really enjoying them as a team at the moment.
Their defense is just on another level at the minute. It's really, really good defense.
Yeah.
Matthew, you got any standouts for the upcoming week, or are you just laser focused on that fantasy?
I'm all over the fantasy this week. I can't concentrate on games. I need to. I'm just hearing that Ronald Jones has had surgery on his finger.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
They say he's not stumbling, though.
One of his fingers. He's had to have surgery today on it. So he's questionable apparently. So.
Fair, wasn't Chris Godwin straight back on the field after having finger surgery?
I don't know.
Mate, for all the good it's done with Chris Godwin this year, but
yeah.
Does he change his number?
Oh, did he? There you go.
Well, he was 12, wasn't he? And then obviously
that's got to be a contract stipulation, isn't it?
Classic TB squared.
Okay. Yeah. Bloody Brady.
Yes, I agree.
It's much more exciting when Jameis Winston was there. So are they going to catch 5 touchdowns, or are they going to get 7 interceptions? Who knows?
30-30 will always just be the best stat ever.
Exactly. It was damned exciting.
Simultaneously, the best and the worst.
He was the yardage leader last season as well, wasn't he? He threw for over 5,000 yards as well. Yeah. So there's clearly a quarterback in there, but
just very well hidden.
I reckon with the right coach, there could still be a starter there.
Possibly.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to see it happen.
So, gentlemen, anybody got any burning desires to unleash anything onto the masses, or as it's also known, any other business?
Nothing from me.
I'll take the silence as confirmation that there's nothing more. Good luck to you two, gentlemen. I believe at least one of you should spend the next X number of days badgering Mr. Williams about that trophy. But that's just
trophy?
That's just
there's a trophy.
No, there isn't.
Well, no, Phil's going to win.
The dark horse that is Phil Walls just snuck his way into the playoffs at the last minute.
He's certainly been on the ascendancy the last few weeks, hasn't he?
He has. That's how he rolls. That's how he operates.
I don't know. I don't know how Cole's never won it either. He's always in there.
He's always in the playoffs.
No offense to Cole, but looking at his team at the minute, it's not great.
You're shouting mismanagement, pal. Yeah.
Matthew. You're talking to the guy who's bottom of the pile and gonna be in the dross bowl. What do I know about putting together a roster of fantasy players?
You had 2 spaces on your bench the other week, didn't you?
Yeah, because I don't want to carry any more dross. That's the point.
Wave you down.
I feel it's
So
like,
out that cap space, yeah.
yeah, exactly. It must have been like a health warning. It's like a case of don't be involved in this guy's fantasy team, otherwise you will be utter shite.
Oh dear.
So there we go. Well, thank you to you, Matthew, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you to you, James, for also taking the time out of your day to join us.
My deepest pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, as always, it's a pleasure piloting this plane, sailing this ship and driving this car off a cliff with you, sir. We are the Thelma and Louise of NFL podcasts. So on that note...
Which is up to the listeners and viewers to determine.
Well, I'll leave you with that image of me and Paul driving off a cliff wearing wigs. Let's go with that. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and until next time, good luck to you two, gentlemen, and until next time,
good luck, boys.
All the best.
Hey, kindly.
I will let you go.
All the best, guys. Bye.
But so there we go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another week of the season gone. Another week coming, but it's definitely drawing to a close. Ugh, sad time of year. Big thank you to both of our guests, James Forrester Gray, Matthew Herlihy, for coming on the podcast, joining us, and being all round good sports. YouTube watchers, if you can subscribe, that would be amazing. And if you could tell someone else to do the same, that would also be amazing. Word of mouth is a powerful tool. Obviously, we've got iTunes and SoundCloud if you're more of a listener, so do check us out over there. Everybody jump over to cookiecast.com, check us out there, and send us some love. You've got social media, you've got email. Pick one and let us know how you're doing. So there we go. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I will see you then. Bye.